You won't believe what this quiet cheerleader did when the whole school turned on her. They laughed at her, humiliated her, called her names, until one day, they crossed the line, and she snapped. But what no one knew was that her dad wasn't just her dad. He was military elite. And what he taught her, it wasn't just for fun. Stay with me, because by the end of this story, those bullies would wish they never messed with a girl who was trained for war, without even knowing it. And to everyone watching this, it's not about violence. It's about knowing your worth. It's about standing tall when everyone tries to push you down. Madison didn't win because she fought. She won because she didn't let them break her. So remember, quiet doesn't mean weak. Kind doesn't mean dumb. And the one you mock might just be the one trained to lead you. Never underestimate someone who's been silently building strength. Especially if their teacher is a soldier. Let me know if you'd like this adapted into a YouTube voiceover script, or if you need thumbnail, SEO, hashtags, or video pacing suggestions. The gym erupted in murmurs. Phones came out. Madison felt her ears ring. Then Amber pushed her. It wasn't a hard shove, but it was public. The crowd gasped. And that's when Madison stepped forward. Amber smirked like she'd won. But Madison didn't back down. She said calmly, "You want to fight me, in front of everyone? Be my guest." Amber laughed and swung. That was her mistake. Because the moment Amber's arm moved, Madison's body reacted. It was instinct, fluid, powerful, trained. In one smooth motion, Madison deflected the punch, twisted Amber's wrist, and dropped her to the ground. Gasps. Phones recorded every second. Amber screamed, but Madison wasn't even breathing heavy. Kylie and Brielle rushed forward. Kylie tried to yank her from behind. Madison dodged, swept her leg around, and Kylie fell flat. Brielle hesitated. Then made the worst decision of all, she grabbed Madison's ponytail. But Madison spun, elbowed lightly, not to injure, just to neutralize, and Brielle stumbled back, eyes wide with shock. Silence filled the gym. Then cheers. The cheer squad stood frozen. The football team clapped. Even the coach said nothing, just stared, jaw dropped. Principal Daniels rushed in, confused and alarmed. But the crowd was already chanting, "Madison! Madison!" The video of that fight went viral. But not the kind that shames, the kind that empowers. The caption read, "When bullies pushed the wrong cheerleader." Amber and her girls were suspended. Madison was offered an apology. By students. By staff. Even the principal. But she didn't smile for that. She smiled because for once, she didn't feel small. She felt seen. She never had to fight again after that. Because respect isn't demanded. It's earned. You won't believe what this quiet cheerleader did when the whole school turned on her. They laughed at her, humiliated her, called her names, until one day, they crossed the line, and she snapped. But what no one knew was that her dad wasn't just her dad. He was military elite. And what he taught her, it wasn't just for fun. Stay with me, because by the end of this story, those bullies would wish they never messed with a girl who was trained for war. What Fairview High image was everything. And Madison Blake. She had the image. Captain of the cheer squad, soft blonde waves, piercing blue eyes, and a smile that could light up a room. But beneath all that polish was a storm she never let anyone see. Her dad, Lieutenant Colonel Jacob Blake, was a decorated military officer, stationed overseas more often than not. He trained in combat, survival, psychological warfare, and on weekends when he was home, Madison was his little cadet. But she never told anyone. Because no one ever looked at the cheerleader and thought soldier. At school, girls whispered behind her back, called her Plastic Barbie for wearing designer clothes. Some boys only liked her for her looks. But Madison stayed kind. Calm. Focused. Her strength wasn't in being loud, it was in knowing she didn't need to be. But one group didn't like that. Amber, the ex-cheer captain, couldn't stand how Madison had replaced her. She was bitter, jealous, and determined to ruin Madison's reputation. Alongside her two loyal lapdogs, Kylie and Brielle, she started small, subtle insults, stares, jokes that Madison slept her way to the top. It escalated fast. In the locker room, they threw red dye in her shampoo. In class, they slid mean notes into her textbooks, fake bitch. Daddy issues much. And then came the video. One afternoon, someone filmed Madison without even knowing it. Madison went home early that day. She stared in the mirror for hours. Face burning, pride shattered, vision swimming with rage. That night, her dad was home. He found her on the porch, fists clenched, eyes red. She didn't tell him everything. Just that people were being cruel. Lieutenant Colonel Blake said only 7 words. Then it's time I taught you more. That weekend, the cheerleader trained in combat. Not punches of rage, but precision. Not revenge, but control. And when she returned to school Monday, she was still smiling. But this time, the fire in her eyes was unmissable. Days passed. The bullies kept pushing. They thought Madison's silence was weakness. But it was training. They had no idea. It all boiled over during Spirit Week, when the school gym was packed for a pep rally. Madison was up next for the halftime cheer routine. Amber and her crew struck then. As Madison stood by the bleachers, prepping for her cue, Amber strutted up, all smirk and venom. She held up a fake letter and shouted, loud enough for the crowd to hear. Guess what, everyone? Looks like little Miss Blake got Daddy to buy her way into